Hi, I'm Julian. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. You know how they say karma takes too long? Well, sometimes you need to give karma a little push, and that's exactly what I did. Dad, I don't want to go to boarding school. Please don't send me away, I sobbed, my 10-year-old voice echoing through the massive foyer of our mansion. My father, Richard Blackwood, barely glanced up from his phone. It's already decided, Julian. The car will pick you up tomorrow at 8. Make sure you're packed. But why? I'm doing well in school here. All my friends are here. Because I said so, he snapped, finally looking at me with those cold gray eyes. This is what's best for you. You'll thank me later. What he meant was, this is what's most convenient for him. With my mother gone, divorced, and essentially paid to disappear, and me at boarding school, he could focus completely on Blackwood Enterprises and his latest girlfriend, Vanessa. That night, I ran away. Not very far, just to the public park about a mile from our gated community. I sat on a bench and cried until my throat hurt. Hey, are you okay? I looked up to see a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, standing there with a baby strapped to her chest. She wore worn jeans and a faded jacket, but her smile was warm. I'm fine, I lied, wiping my eyes quickly. Mind if I sit, she asked, not waiting for an answer as she settled beside me. I'm Sarah. This little guy is Noah. I'm Julian, I mumbled. Well, Julian, nobody cries like that when they're fine, she said gently. I would know. I've done plenty of not fine crying myself. Something about her kindness broke through my defenses. My dad's sending me away to boarding school tomorrow. I don't want to go. That's tough, she said, adjusting baby Noah, who was starting to fuss. Parents sometimes make decisions we don't understand. He doesn't care about me, I said bitterly. He just wants me out of his way. Sarah was quiet for a moment, bouncing Noah gently. You know what helped me when life got really hard? Remembering that nothing stays the same forever. Good or bad, everything changes eventually. How would you know? I asked, immediately regretting my rudeness. She laughed, surprising me. Because 2 years ago, I was living in a nice apartment with a college degree and a promising career. Then life happened. My boyfriend left when I got pregnant, I lost my job, and now I'm working 2 part-time jobs while living in a studio apartment that's smaller than your bedroom probably is. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. Her clothes were worn but clean. The baby was well cared for. And despite everything, she seemed strong. I'm sorry, I said, don't be. I've got Noah now and things are looking up. I just got a better job that starts next month. We talked for almost an hour. She didn't treat me like a kid, but like a person with real feelings. When I finally said I should probably go back before someone noticed I was missing, she gave me her phone number. If you ever need to talk, call me. Boarding school might surprise you. It could be a fresh start. What neither of us knew was that my father had been watching the entire time. He'd had his security team track my phone when I disappeared. Instead of coming to get me himself, he'd observed from his car, parked at a distance. The next morning, as I grudgingly got into the car for boarding school, my father stopped me. That woman you were talking to in the park, he said, his voice cold. Stay away from people like that. They're always looking for handouts from families like ours. I stared at him in shock. You were spying on me? I was ensuring your safety, he corrected. And I saw enough to know she targeted you, probably recognized who you were. She was just being nice, I protested. She didn't even know who I was. Don't be naive, Julian. Everyone wants something. Remember that at school. That was 15 years ago. 15 years of minimal contact with my father, holidays spent with friends' families because mine was too busy, and a growing understanding of just how toxic Richard Blackwood truly was. I excelled at school out of spite, got into an Ivy League university, and built my own tech startup. When it took off 2 years ago, my father suddenly wanted to reconnect. Funny how that works. Julian, there's my boy, my father boomed as he entered the restaurant where we'd agreed to meet. At 55, he still looked imposing. Expensive suit, perfect hair, the confidence of a man who'd crushed countless people beneath his heel. Richard, I said, not rising to greet him. I'd long ago stopped calling him Dad. Still so formal, he chuckled, signaling for the waiter. McAllen 25, neat, he ordered without looking at the menu. Just water for me, I said. Come on, let's celebrate. Your company's valuation hit what, $300 million? Not bad. $450 million after the last funding round, I corrected. But you'd know that if you read any of the emails my assistant sent when you suddenly wanted to reconnect. He waved his hand dismissively. I've been busy. The European expansion is taking all my attention. Right, I said flatly. So what do you want, Richard? He leaned forward, dropping the jovial act. I'm considering a strategic investment in your company. Blackwood Enterprises could offer significant resources, distribution channels. I couldn't help it. I laughed. You're serious? Completely. We could make an excellent team, son. I'm not interested, I said simply. His expression hardened. Don't let emotion cloud your business judgment. That's the first rule I should have taught you. Oh, you taught me plenty, I replied. Like how to manipulate people, how to discard them when they're no longer useful. If this is about your mother, it's about everything, I interrupted. But especially what happened to Sarah, he frowned. Who? The woman from the park, the one who comforted me the night before boarding school, the poor girl with the baby you warned me about. Recognition dawned slowly. That was 15 years ago, Julian. What does she have to do with anything? Everything, I said coldly. Because after you saw her being kind to me, you decided she was a threat. Did you think I wouldn't find out what you did to her? My father's expression didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten around his glass. I have no idea what you're talking about. Let me refresh your memory, I said, leaning forward. Sarah Jenkins, 23 years old at the time, single mother to Noah, had just landed a job as an administrative assistant at Meridian Healthcare, a company your friend Marcus Wilson owned, a job she mysteriously lost before her first day. Businesses make hiring decisions all the time, he said dismissively. Then there was the sudden eviction from her apartment when the building was bought by a shell company that, coincidentally, traces back to Blackwood Real Estate Holdings. This is absurd, he scoffed, but I could see the calculation in his eyes. Is it? Because I have the paper trail, Richard, every email, every transaction, how you systematically destroyed the life of a woman whose only crime was showing kindness to your son. My father's face hardened. If I did any of what you're implying, which I'm not confirming, it would have been to protect you from opportunists. She wasn't an opportunist. I slammed my hand on the table, drawing looks from nearby diners. Lowering my voice, I continued. She was working 2 jobs, had a degree in business administration, and was getting back on her feet after her boyfriend abandoned her. She never asked me for anything, never even knew who I was. Then how did you find her again? He challenged. I smiled coldly. I never lost her. That phone number she gave me, I called it from school. We stayed in touch. This clearly caught him off guard. All this time? All this time, I confirmed. And now I know everything, Richard. Not just what you did to Sarah, but to dozens of others. The bribes, the threats, the lives you've ruined to build your precious empire. You've got nothing, he said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Meet me at my office tomorrow at noon, I told him, alone. Then we'll see what I've got. I stood to leave, dropping cash for my untouched water. Julian, he called after me. Don't make an enemy of me. I'm still your father. I turned back. No, Richard. You're just the man who contributed DNA. Tomorrow at noon. Back at my office, my assistant Layla looked up as I entered. How did it go? Exactly as expected, I replied. Is everything ready for tomorrow? Yes. Thomas confirmed the final details and Maya has the legal team on standby. Thomas appeared in the doorway of his office. My best friend since boarding school, he now served as my company's security chief and was instrumental in uncovering my father's dirty secrets. The conference room is set up, he said, and I've confirmed that all the guests will arrive by 12:15. Guests? Layla looked confused. I thought it was just your father coming. Oh, I invited a few other people, I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. It's going to be quite the reunion. The next day at precisely noon, Richard Blackwood strutted into my office building like he owned it. My assistant directed him to the conference room where I waited alone. I hope this meeting is worth my time, he said, not bothering with a greeting. Oh, it will be, I assured him. Please have a seat. He remained standing. Let's cut to the chase. What exactly do you think you have on me? I picked up a remote and turned on the large screen on the wall. Let's start with the Sarah Jenkins situation. Here's an email you sent to Marcus Wilson the day after you saw her with me in the park. The email appeared on screen. Marcus, need a favor. There's a new hire starting at Meridian next week, Sarah Jenkins. Find a reason to rescind the offer. I'll explain later. RB. My father's face remained impassive. Business communications get taken out of context all the time. How about this context? I clicked to the next screen showing another email from Marcus to his HR director. Need to cancel the Jenkins hire. Blackwood says she's trouble. Find an excuse and make it happen. Or this, I continued, showing property records for Sarah's old apartment building. The timing is quite interesting, don't you think? Circumstantial at best, my father said, though his confidence was clearly shaken. Perhaps. But what about Westlake Pharmaceuticals, the clinical trial data you buried because it would hurt your investment? His eyes narrowed. Be very careful, Julian. Or the environmental report on the Blackwood Phoenix development, the one showing dangerous levels of contamination that you paid to have rewritten? You have no proof, he snarled. Actually, I do. I pressed a button on my phone. Maya, would you join us? The door opened, and Maya Chen entered, one of the top corporate attorneys in the country, and now my company's chief counsel. Mr. Blackwood, she nodded coolly, I prepared a comprehensive file detailing potential violations of federal securities laws, environmental regulations, and various state statutes. The evidence is compelling. This is blackmail, my father hissed. No, I corrected him. This is accountability, something you've avoided your entire life. A knock at the door interrupted us. Thomas opened it to reveal a small group of people filing in. What is this? My father demanded. Richard, I said, I believe you remember Sarah? Sarah Jenkins entered, now in her late 30s, dressed in a tailored suit that spoke of success. Behind her came Noah, now a teenager, and several other people I knew my father would recognize. Former employees he'd wronged, business partners he'd betrayed. Hello, Mr. Blackwood, Sarah said calmly. It's been a long time. My father's face went pale. What is the meaning of this circus? These people all have stories about you, I explained, stories they're prepared to tell to federal prosecutors, journalists, and your board of directors. You wouldn't dare, he whispered. No, Richard, Sarah stepped forward. The question is, why wouldn't we? You tried to destroy my life because I showed kindness to your son. I lost my job, my apartment, and almost lost custody of Noah when I couldn't make child support payments. I had nothing to do with— Save it, she cut him off. I rebuilt my life despite you. I now run a nonprofit helping single parents, something you'd know if you'd ever bothered to check on the people you crush on your way up. My father turned to me, his face a mask of rage. What do you want? Money? A position in my company? I want justice, I said simply, and I'm going to get it, with or without your cooperation. Here's what's going to happen. Maya stepped forward with a folder. Inside is a resignation letter to your board, citing health concerns. You'll step down as CEO of Blackwood Enterprises. You'll transfer controlling interest to a blind trust that will be used to compensate the people you've harmed, and you'll disappear from public life. Or, he challenged, or by this time tomorrow, every document I've collected goes to the SEC, the EPA, and the Wall Street Journal, I said. Your choice. For a long moment, Richard Blackwood stood frozen, his empire crumbling before his eyes. Then slowly, he reached for the folder. You're making a mistake, Julian, he said quietly. I only ever did what was necessary. No, I replied. You did what was easy. There's a difference. As he signed the papers, defeated, Sarah came to stand beside me. Was it worth it? She asked softly. All this planning, all this time. I watched as my father, the man who had taught me that power was everything and compassion was weakness, walked out of the room a broken man. You once told me nothing stays the same forever, I said. You were right. 2 months later, I sat across from Sarah at a small cafe. Blackwood Enterprises had been restructured, with many of my father's victims receiving compensation from the trust. Richard himself had retreated to his house in Switzerland, his reputation in tatters. Noah got accepted to Stanford, Sarah told me proudly. Full scholarship. That's fantastic, I said genuinely. He deserves it. None of this would have happened without you, Julian. I shook my head. None of this would have happened without you. That day in the park, you changed my life. You showed me kindness when I needed it most. And look at you now, she smiled. The boy who cried wolf to the billionaire. I laughed at her clever reference. I just wish I'd done it sooner. Everything happens when it's supposed to, she said wisely. You needed to build your own power first. Otherwise, he would have crushed you too. As we finished our coffee, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From a crying boy on a park bench to the man who finally held his father accountable. What would you have done, I asked Sarah, if my father had reached out to you after everything and apologized, claimed he'd changed and wanted forgiveness? She considered this for a moment. stirring her coffee thoughtfully. You know, that's actually something I've thought about over the years. What would you do if someone who deliberately tried to ruin your life suddenly wanted your forgiveness?